here, this one is going to be the thing that's truly going to help you lock in how to be a divine co-creator in this experience. And this is the conversation that no one has with you during manifestation. Like, no one talks about this. And this is the thing that not only is going to help you raise your frequency, it's also going to help you to start living in a heart-centered space. So, like, get excited, because I know that this day is called grounding, and you might be like, oh, okay, so I'm going to go walk outside barefoot. And yes, that is something that you should do. What's happening with my hair? I don't know, you guys. I'm still like manifesting health, but if you even knew how sick I was right now. So, today is like not just going to be you walking on the ground barefoot. This is going to be how you really connect with yourself. So today we're talking about grounding, and we're really talking about how are you connecting daily. So drop in the comments, how are you feeling? How has the last 2 days been for you? Have you been doing the homework? Are you all caught up? Have you been noticing a shift? Have you been really feeling like you now are empowered on this changing your mindset, really understanding how to work with your emotions, how to really have control instead of feeling like you're powerless? Let me know how you're feeling. And if you're catching me on TikTok or if you're catching me on YouTube, make sure that you join the free 5-day challenge at the link in my bio. You can join us. You can catch up if you're just finding me today. You can catch up. Day 1, we went into mindset. Day 2, we went into emotions. And I gave you really quick processes to shift your emotions and to shift your mindset quickly in 5-step processes. It's all about really anchoring in the moment, because right now is the only moment you're manifesting from, right? Like, this is when you're manifesting. So it's not about doing all this healing work that takes you out of the moment. It's about really learning how to actively be doing the healing work while you're showing up in the moment. It's about you learning how to change your mindset in the moment, changing your emotions in the moment, learning how to really become present in this moment, because presence is one of the number one things. Presence is so, so, so key. And if you've noticed, this has been the underlying theme of this entire workshop, is how are we tuning into the present moment so that way we can actually transform our lives now, not in 10 years, not like once I've gone through a year of therapy. It's about how can you learn to really be able to witness yourself, to observe yourself, to change your frequency, to change your mindset, to change how you're being right now. Because when you start changing how you're being right now, and then never really going back to who you were being, this is when we have this wobbly energy. This is when feels like we're doing all of the things in manifestation. We're doing all of the personal development work, but we're not really seeing the changes. And more importantly, we're not really feeling the changes, right? So I want you guys to drop down below. Like, are you feeling the shifts right now? Do you see how in my world, I'm really empowering you to pay attention to how you're feeling and how you're thinking? Because when you're actually paying attention, when you're actually conscious, you can actually shift in the moment. And here's the thing, is so many people are egoically manifesting, and we are going to get deep into that today, where they're looking for something outside of them to give them validation that's working. But in my world, I'm helping you to get out of the mind. I'm helping you to get out of the egoic manifestations and to really be a heart-centered being, and to really manifest from intentionality, from a heart-centered space. And the idea is you guys know this, but so many people lose sight of this because their ego is still in control, that manifestation is an internal game, right? You changing your life, it's an internal game first. So you're actually going to feel the shift before you see the thing. If you've been in my world, you know that my tagline is you've got to be the evidence until you see the evidence. But today is really going to lock in like how we can actually do that, how we can actually drop into this heart-centered space of living. And so this one is going to be a major conversation that I know is going to transform your entire life. So I'm so excited that you're here. Like, the fact that this is all free right now is truly insane. Like, if you're showing up for this, you are going to be so grateful for doing this work, because this is the work that's actually going to shift your life. I'm asking you all these questions, and once again, I don't have the chat open. So let me open up the chat, see what you guys are saying. Feeling super great today. Oh my God, amazing. I'm so excited. Feeling great. Still working on the homework because I want to do it justice and take my time really diving in, but I'm feeling a shift in my mentality. Amazing. And it's great to want to take your time and do it, but don't allow you to fall behind on the homework because you're telling yourself that you need a bunch of time to do it. I want you to be able to be intentional with doing the homework, but I also want you to do it so that way you see it, because we're compounding day by day. So don't fall too behind in the homework. Feeling awesomely empowered. All of my feelings all of my feelings lead me to you. Oh my God, I love that. Talking about the present, when you asked, "Where are you, Alexa?" I thought that was great and asked, "Where are you, sugar?" and unexpectedly started bawling. So I feel that is a shift. Oh my God, I love that for you. That is one of the questions, because how often do you see yourself like, or do you catch yourself really, where you are in some place, you're in your car, you're at work, you're in your kitchen cooking, but it's like your body is there doing the thing, but you, like, your consciousness is somewhere else. Like, you hear a lot of talk about astral projection when you start getting into the spiritual world, but it's like you're always projecting your consciousness somewhere else. And I find that a lot of the work in spiritual development and personal growth is learning how to stop detaching from your body and how to actually be connected in your body, so that you're actually paying attention to what's going on inside of you, how you're feeling, how you're thinking. And that's why I love that question, because whenever I notice myself that I've caught myself drifting and I say, where are you, Alexa? And absolutely insert your name there. Where are you? That's when you catch yourself and you're like, oh, I don't know exactly where I was, or maybe you do know, but you're like, I definitely wasn't here in the moment. So a lot of the work in my world is teaching you to, one, become conscious, and to two, become present, because we can only become conscious when we're actually in the present moment. And the thing is I find a lot of people are trying to manifest from this like internal place of chaos, and they're like still at war with themselves, and they're not realizing, because they're at war with themselves, they're actually, even if they're doing all the things, they aren't really moving the needle forward, because they aren't finding that peace and that stability and that calm within themselves. And that's something that we're going to talk about today. How do you find peace within yourself? How do you stop being at war with yourself? And here's the thing, right? Remember that I said this was an unlearning process. Society has taught you to stand in the mirror and to pick yourself apart, to tell yourself that you're not good enough, to compare yourself, to judge yourself, to always think that you're behind, to always find your flaws. But we have to remember that what we are feeding our energy with, what we are feeding our attention with, is what is going to be manifesting. So if all we're focusing on are our flaws, if all we're focusing on is what we don't like about ourselves, then we're never actually giving ourselves this love that we all desperately need, because love is truly like the energetic structure of all of the universes, like not just planet Earth, but everywhere. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I'm like trying to manifest health, but you guys know I might be a little snotty in this one. I'm just going to put that out there. But we still here, okay? We're still here, and I'm still showing up in my energy. So there might just be a few sniffles in the way. Yes, I've been fully focusing more on myself and hobbies, and everything external has been flowing to me way more easily. I love that. And that's exactly it. Like, how do we get into this flow, into this state of surrender, rather than always seeking, always chasing outside of ourselves? Because what's the motto that everybody knows in law of attraction, in manifestation? It's always, I don't seek, I attract, right? But while that's a great statement, if we actually understood how our subconscious mind works, it doesn't understand negation. So it's definitely not the best motto, but like, it'll do. So today, what I really want to talk to you about is, how do you connect? How are you connecting to nature? Are you connecting to nature? Are you getting outside? When you're outside, are you that person that's walking your dog or taking your hot girl walks and you've got your AirPods in and you've got your phone? Because then you're not actually regulating your circadian rhythm. You're not actually regulating your nervous system. You're not actually getting your circadian rhythm in check. And we are beings of Earth. Like, that's why I always laugh hysterically when Elon Musk is like, we're going to Mars. No, we're not. We're Earthlings. We are tied in this body to Earth. So we need to have a connection with nature. And that's been proven. That's how it regulates your nervous system. That's how you can find this sense of peace and calm, because you're no longer being so attached to this 3D form and getting so in your head about like all of the things that you have to do and what you're behind on and all of like this rat race that we're taught and programmed into in society. Another thing is, how are you connecting with your breath? How much time do you spend in meditation? How much time do you spend doing breath work? And yes, we talked about this yesterday when we talked about regulating your nervous system, but you have to realize that your breath is really how you connect into the present moment. Something that channeled through to me earlier this year was the moment that you're breathing into is the moment that you're manifesting from. But how much of the time are you somewhere else and you're just subconsciously breathing, but you're not consciously paying attention to what you're doing? You're not consciously paying attention to the thoughts. You're not consciously paying attention to how you're feeling. You're not even consciously paying attention to your breath. And that's why when people have panic attacks, they're told to breathe. Why? Because it gets you into this present moment. Because a panic attack is you having anxiety, and anxiety means that you are, worst case scenario, projecting into a future moment, which you don't have control over. And depression, on the other side of that, is you ruminating on a past situation that happened, which you also don't have control over. You can't change it. You can change you in this moment. Now, another thing that we want to really be looking at is, are you connecting to your intuition? Are you connecting to your highest self? How often are you asking your highest self for guidance? How often do you find yourself in future orientation? That's something that I talk about and I teach. Oh, good Lord. I don't even know that I could tell you in this moment what program it's in, because like I am very medicated right now to try and get this so I could actually like talk and breathe. So if you're somebody like Sid, maybe you know this, like which one do I talk about future orientation in? If you're somebody that's in the membership, if you are a student of AOMU, let me know. But it's something that I talk about is a lot of the times we are past orientated. So we're focusing on what has happened to us. We're focusing on what went wrong, but like time isn't linear. We can also connect to any timeline. And when you're actually spending more time connecting to your future self, your highest self, who isn't trying to logically figure it all out, who is really giving you this guidance. Like I always say, the downloads you receive from the universe are energetic breadcrumbs telling you to go this way. And that's when we start operating more in flow, when we spend more time getting our mindset right, getting our energy right, and really connecting to our power, connecting to the present moment, connecting to the peace that we really have inside of us. I'm keeping one eye on Gaia because I cannot even tell you how many times today I have remade that couch because she's been going crazy. Young lady, what are we doing? Yeah. Remember, mom's got eyes in the back of her head. How many times do I tell you that? So, how much time are we really connecting to our intuition? How much time are we connecting to our future selves? Something that I ask myself, and start doing this because this one thing alone will change your life. How many times throughout the day, like raise your hand if you resonate with this, that you'll be going to do something, you'll be going to get something, you'll be walking from one room to another in your house, and you just like completely forget what you were doing. You forget what you were looking for. You forget what you were going to do. You just have like this blank moment where you're like, what was I doing? Like, what was I doing? That happens to us all the time, right? I see a bunch of hands. Okay. So one thing that I've really taught myself to do is, so just like I had the question where I say, where are you, Alexa? When I notice that I've shifted off, I will say, and I come fully in the present moment and I ground in and I say, what am I doing? Or what am I looking for? And I will tell you that within the second that I ask that question, what am I doing? What am I looking for? I will immediately remember what I was doing. I will immediately make eye contact with what I was looking for. Like it just comes to me. And that isn't my logical brain. I'm asking myself what I'm doing or what I'm looking for because I'm consciously bringing myself back into the moment. Because when we've forgotten what we were doing, it's because we've disconnected. It's because we've lost sight of the present moment. And we're somewhere else in our head. And while there's a time and place for that, we can't be living there, right? Like we have to actually master this duality of being a human who's living this 3D experience, and then also being able to get wisdom from our higher self, being able to connect with the universe, being able to surrender because we are receiving this guidance. Now, you have to remember that we're energetic beings first. You are one big electrical circuit. You're walking energy. That's why you hear people talk about being empathic, because they can actually feel people's auras. They can feel people's energies. They can feel people's emotions. And you might resonate with that. They feel the energy of other beings, whether they're talking about it or not. When we're growing up, we feel the energy in the household. So even if our parents did try and keep us away from certain conversations, we still felt the energy when these conversations were happening, right? Now, we've also heard people talk about how they have an aura. There's some people that are very intuitively gifted and they can see people's auras. Now, that's because your energy, everyone's energy has a specific signature. You have an energetic signature. And when you're fully in your personal power, that is when your energetic signature is fully heightened. That's when you've raised your vibration. That's when you're doing the work on yourself to balance out your chakras. You guys hear me talk about alignment all the time. Energetic alignment. The name of my podcast is Getting into Alignment. Alignment is so key, right? I want you to think about your car. If you're driving your car around and your car is out of alignment, even if technically nothing else is wrong with your car, the steering is off, like it doesn't feel like that's safe while you're driving in it. You're constantly like looking around because you're like, oh, like this is like, yeah, I can get from A to Z, but it doesn't necessarily feel how I want it to feel. That's what ends up happening when we're out of alignment, when one of our chakras are out of balance. And a word that really came through to me last night was while I was in my meditation. Even when I'm this sick, you guys, I'm going into meditation, so there's no excuses. Is attunement. If we think about how everything is energy and everything has vibration, and there's also like sound healing, and we think about that, harmony. When we have attunement, we are in harmony, right? So that is when our mind, body, soul is in balance, because we have the 7 chakras. And yes, we can talk about how there's more than 7 chakras, but let's just focus on there being 7 and not get too into it. The chakras have been something that have been talked about from ancient wisdom all the way to modern science, because there is something there. And if you think about when you see a rainbow, how there's all of the colors of the rainbow and they're all going together, they're always going together in the line, right? If they're not going together, you're not actually seeing them. And when you're fully in alignment, this is when you are shining brightly. This is when you're doing the work to really show up in your personal power and being conscious of and paying attention to how your body is really feeling. And this is a conversation that not enough people talk about. Because one, if your chakras are out of alignment, it's going to manifest physical health, right? Because you are not taking care of what you need. And the one place that I find a lot of people have this disconnect, have this imbalance, is in their root chakra. They aren't grounding into the present moment. They aren't grounding into safety. And if we look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, that means that we can't really do any of the personal growth. We can't really do any of the ascension work. We can't really actually successfully manifest because we aren't taking care of our body. Grounding. Think about just like when we're talking about batteries, right? Like there's a positive and negative, there's a grounding side. You need to be able to ground in. And when you're able to ground into your body and you actually have a healthy body, this is when you have the most energy. This is when you feel your best. This is when you can show up as the best version of yourself. And so this is the thing that I really want to talk to you about today, because this is a conversation that so many people don't have. And I always want to set you up for success in everything, in manifestation and personal growth, in success. And it's like, if you're not taking care of your body, if you're not taking care of your energy, if you're not taking care of your mind, this is when this whole manifestation thing feels really fucking hard. And you're getting so attached to these outcomes and you're feeling so defeated. And then you end up disassociating. You end up disassociating from the present moment. You end up disassociating from yourself. And it's because the mind disconnects, but the heart connects us. And as Ram Dass said, we end up then in this state where we're thinking about life instead of being life. How many times have you felt yourself there where it's like you just feel so disconnected? You feel disconnected from your body, you feel disconnected from yourself. And a lot of the times, and while I feel like why I feel like this conversation is blown up so much, especially on TikTok about specific people and finding your specific person, is because ultimately what are people doing? They're looking for this like high vibrational love frequency that they get when they are in love with somebody, when they have this relationship. Think about when you first get into a relationship and you like feel like that buzzy, like you've got the butterflies in your stomach, you just feel so like giddy, you're like smiling, you just like feel like you're walking through life with these rose colored glasses on. What if you didn't need that person to feel that way? What if you could actually start falling in love with yourself like that instead of relying on someone else to give you this love that you're seeking for desperately? What if you gave yourself permission to love yourself like that? What if you actually started falling in love with yourself? What if you actually started falling in love with who you are being moment by moment? If you actually started falling in love with this journey? Now, I think that when we're so attached to this 3D form and when we're looking in the mirror and we're beating ourselves up, that's when it's really difficult for us to like really tap into this love and really hold this frequency. But when you start connecting to source, when you start connecting to the divinity within you, then it's almost like you see this love everywhere. You feel this love everywhere. And of course, there's pain and there's suffering and there's other emotions as well, especially if you're looking at the current state of affairs in the world. But the one thing that I truly feel and has channeled through to me so many times through downloads, especially and meditations, especially this year, is how the work that we as a collective and as an individuals really need to focus on is our heart chakra, is really learning to love again, to stop living in our mind and start living in our hearts, and to really be able to have this compassion, to feel this love, to be able to love ourselves so that way we can be compassionate when other people are suffering, when we're seeing people who don't necessarily believe the same things as us, or in this highly politicized and this highly, what's the word I'm looking for, when we're constantly separating each other, divisive, when we're in this divisive society where it's left and right and red and blue and this and that, and it's like we are constantly dividing ourselves and we are finding more ways to divide ourselves. But what if this was happening because it's actually showing more of us how to bring our hearts online? And that's what I would say, while especially since October 7th, and I'm not going to get deeply into that, especially on TikTok. Jesus Christ, my account will get fucking banned if I talk about it anymore. I'm still shadow banned like a motherfucker on TikTok from talking about it and bringing awareness to it. But the one thing I will say is that this isn't something new. This has been happening, but look at the way that the collective is shifting over what's happening. Why? Because we are actually coming online and connecting. Instead of dividing, we're actually coming together. And this is what is a primal drive of humanity, is we really need to have this community. We need to be coming together rather than picking ourselves apart, picking ourselves like individually apart, picking the collective apart, noticing what we don't like in other people, gossiping about other people, talking negatively. Fun fact, if you don't know this, your subconscious mind takes everything personally. So if you're somebody that talks negatively about other people, if you think negatively about other people, if you gossip about other people, your subconscious mind is thinking that you're saying that about you. So that's one thing that I want you to be mindful of. How can you start actually loving people or having compassion for other people, including yourself? So that way you're actually teaching yourself and training yourself to only see the good, to only see the beauty, to really give people compassion when they are coming from a place of hatred, when they are coming from a place where you can just notice and see that they are at war with themselves. Now, we talked yesterday about energetic alignment and we talked about the frequency scale of emotions. Well, love is one of the highest ones. And do you know what the highest one is? Does anyone know what the highest emotion is on the vibrational scale? I'm going to take a sip of tea. Wow. While we see. And if you're on TikTok or if you're joining me on YouTube, just make sure to jump into the actual program so that way you can jump into the chat, you can ask questions, you can interact, and you'll get the homework and the replays. Authenticity. That is a good one. And when you are authentic, then it does help. Peace. Yes. Yes. So it's actually enlightenment. But that's synonymous with peace, right? So enlightenment is the highest vibrational frequency. Now, here's the thing that I find so interesting, and I talk about this a lot. Like, you guys have probably heard me talk about this, that I find that a lot of people are able to get into a higher vibe when they're doing their meditations, when they're in their morning routine, at night, when they're alone, but they aren't able to navigate being a human, being out in the 3D, like being around people that think differently, that feel differently, that have different energy. Like, that's when a lot of people really struggle with this work. But what if you were actually able to carry this enlightenment and this love and this peace with you throughout the day? How differently would you feel right now? How differently would you feel about your life if you were actually showing up in this place of peace? Like, you are no longer at war with yourself. Raise your hand if you would, like, if you've been seeking this, if you've just been looking for this solace, if you've been looking for this serenity, if you feel like the majority of your life you were just looking for happiness. I remember growing up, and of course I'm a manifesting generator, so you can't like put me in a box, but growing up, when people would ask me, Alexa, like, what do you want to do? And of course, at different times in my life, there were different things that I wanted to do, different professions. But the conversation that I would always say, or like my answer would always be happiness. And they were like, what? And I was like, I want to find happiness. Like, I like, that's my goal. My goal is to find happiness in life. And I get that you might not be asking that question, but I still believe that my answer applies. And it's something that I spent a long time really trying to find, like, happiness within myself, peace within myself. And the one thing that I can tell you completely changed my life was when I got diagnosed as a celiac. If you don't know, I'm not going to go into the whole story, but I was 22 when I got diagnosed. I was at toxic gluten levels, and I had always struggled with really bad anxiety. I was diagnosed with the worst anxiety. I'd always struggled with depression. I had like the worst form of depression. I had suicidal ideations the majority of my life. I came from a lot of trauma. I felt like shit every single day. My mental health was terrible. I didn't feel good in my body. I always felt like never felt good in the moment. Then I had to go on this whole wellness journey because I couldn't eat gluten anymore. And I was like, what the fuck do people eat? Like, there were not gluten-free tags anywhere. It was like, you had to know what gluten and gluten-free meant and was, and what products had it. And the reason I'm telling you this is because before I had healthy habits in my life, before I was consuming healthy foods, I really struggled with mental health. Now, after diving deep into this and studying this, if you don't know, I was first a wellness and a mindset coach, and then my work just went so spiritual. But I really came up with these pillars of wellness, and I called it the wellness spectrum. I gave a speech on this at a college, like literally 2 weeks after I quit my job at the New York State government. And so this is something that I really spent a lot of time doing. So I don't know if people don't have this conversation because they don't have the familiarity with it, because we leave like wellness coaches and personal trainers, and we leave like the health aspect up to those people. And then we have like spiritual coaches or people that we learn manifestation from. It's like we've learned to be so divided, not only as people, but even in topics. And it's like, I don't think we're actually serving the collective when we do that, because so many people struggle with, like, raise your hand if you feel like you struggle with anxiety, if you feel like you struggle with depression, if you feel like you have a difficult time with the mindset thing. And here's the thing, like, so many hands for the last question, so many hands for this one. The reason why so many people struggle is because we don't have a deep understanding of how our gut health works. Now, your gut is called your second brain. There's a lot of research on your gut health connection, your gut brain connection. And it's because your vagus nerve, which we talked about yesterday, is the largest nerve that runs through your body that regulates your nervous system. It connects your brain, and your gut. So if you have shitty gut health, you will have shitty mental health. And where I find a lot of people are setting themselves up for failure in mindset work and personal development work is they're getting stuck in Maslow's hierarchy of needs because they aren't actually giving their body what they need. And if you're not grounding into your body and giving your body what you need, it's almost impossible for you to do the mental work. It's almost impossible for you to do the energetic work. It's almost impossible for you to do the spiritual work, because the first pillar of that is your body and taking care of your health. So one thing that I want you to start being conscious of is, what are you eating all day long? How much processed sugar are you eating? How much processed food are you eating? How much water are you drinking? How much tea are you drinking? How many supplements are you taking? How much nutrient dense food are you eating? This is a conversation that a lot of people don't have with you in manifestation. And this is why I always tell you guys that in my world, it's holistic. And this is why my Psyche manifestation method is mind, body, soul. Because if you're not taking care of your human body and your health, you're really going to struggle with this work. And so true. Oh my God. Yep. 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 And the thing is you're almost fighting against yourself. You're almost like causing more resistance if you're trying to do all of this manifestation work, if you're trying to do the personal development work, but you're not taking care of yourself. How many people aren't getting 8 hours of sleep a night? How many people are drinking a lot of soda? How many people are eating fast food regularly? How many people are ordering Uber Eats or DoorDash regularly? We have this disconnection with our bodies. We have a disconnection with our food. And I'm not going to go too into that today, but understand something that I've always said since I created my first workshop, which is the Holistic Wellbeing Workshop, which is available for you. I think I have to put it back in the membership. It was in the academy, but I think I have to put it back in the membership. But it is available in my store as well. Was the Holistic Wellbeing Workshop. That was the first workshop that I ever created. And it's talking about having this mind, body, soul health, holistic health. So that way we can do the spiritual work. So that way we can do the energetic work. So that way we can do the emotional work. And something that channeled through to me so long ago was, your relationship with yourself is going to show up in every other relationship. And a lot of the times we only think of relationships with other people and with love. But I mean your relationship with food. I mean your relationship with eating. I mean your relationship with your health, with exercise, with all of these things. And there's a lot of toxic manifestation teachers that are in the everyone is you pushed out camp, which will tell you, if you want to lose weight, fun fact, don't ever say you want to lose weight. Your subconscious mind doesn't want you to lose anything. You're actually working against yourself. If you want to have a more fit body, if you want to grow abs, if you want to grow your booty, if you want to be in a healthier body, language is important, one thing. Two, there's a lot of those people that are telling you, you can just eat Oreos in bed and eat McDonald's, and you don't have to exercise, and you can just see yourself being healthy and tell yourself affirmations of losing weight. No. And here's the thing, right? Balance. You can eat Oreos if you want to eat Oreos. Don't ever eat McDonald's. We're not going to go into that conversation today, but there's no excuse. Don't ever eat McDonald's. If we even had a conversation about how genetically modified those fries are, y'all, and not to mention we're boycotting them, but all the things. So I'm not saying that there aren't times when you can't eat desserts, when you can't have chocolate, when you can't eat something that is probably not the healthiest, but it's balance, right? People are always like, Alexa, how are you so skinny? Alexa, how and I'm because 99% of the time I'm so fucking conscious of what I'm eating that I don't have to be conscious when I'm yeah, so I want to eat a slice of chocolate cake. I can eat that. Of course, it's going to be gluten-free because gluten-free. But do you understand that if you're paying more attention to what you're eating, if you're paying more attention to how you're hydrating yourself, if you're paying more attention to how much sleep you're getting, you're actually setting yourself up for success in the morning, throughout the day, and at night. You're going to sleep better. Your circadian rhythm is going to be more regulated. Your nervous system is going to be more regulated. You're going to have better mental health. Your body is going to feel better. If you guys have listened to my podcast episode, excuse me, where I teach you how to create a meditation practice, I actually should have created a program as that, but I was in a mastermind where we had this conversation, and it wasn't my mastermind. Like, I don't join masterminds anymore because I end up taking over, and then I kind of feel bad for like the person hosting it. They love it too because they're like, let this girl teach it. That's just who I am. But there were so many, there was like 15 women in that mastermind that were like, Alexa, I've never heard anybody talk about meditation in the way that you're talking about it. Like, I've always struggled with meditation. And like, this is just, can you please, like, can you make a podcast episode? Can you make a resource? Like, can you please like give this somewhere? Because like this mastermind's going to be closing in a week. So if you haven't yet listened to that one, it's episode 4 on my podcast, and it's called Creating a Meditation Practice. And one of the things that a lot of people don't talk about in meditation, what are we always missing when we're doing this spiritual work? We're missing the body, right? So a lot of people don't talk about the fact that when you learn to meditate, it's uncomfortable for you to actually sit in your body. You aren't like actually able to sit still. You actually have like a pain in your stomach. You've got like this and that going on. Even meditation is a mind, body, soul thing. And we cannot leave the body out of it, because what is the body? Our body is our physical anchor into this 3D world. And yes, we are more divine than we are human, but the only way we can truly connect with the divine and we can really have this enlightenment is to be able to be grounding into our body with healthy habits, with healthy foods, with healthy lifestyles. So it's like, we're not throwing our health away because we're manifesting money. We're not throwing our health away because we're manifesting love. We're actually always adding on. So do you see how we went deep into the mindset work? We went deep into the emotional work and the energetic work. And now it's like, I really like, I would not be doing my due diligence if we did not talk about your body, your health, your habits, and you being able to connect, right? Because how many of you feel like, even though you're learning all of the manifestation, you're learning the mindset, you're learning the energetics, how many of you feel like you're almost getting so tired by doing all of this work that by the end of the day, you're exhausted and you're just binging Netflix, or you're ordering Uber Eats, or you're like going out to drink with your friends, even though you know it's probably not the best thing for you to do? You're just lacking the energy, or you're so stressed out by the state of the world, or like your boss and all of the things that you just kind of feel like you have to unplug. Who's there at that point right now where you're like, I am unplugging like a motherfucker right now? So many hands, so many hands. And if you're joining us on TikTok or YouTube, just click on the link in my bio, join the program, so that way you can join in the chat. You can ask me questions, and you'll get access to the replays and the homework. It's literally so jam-packed, loaded with all the goods. That's about the Holistic Wellbeing Workshop. I'm so happy you love that. Like, I literally go over. So if you want to go deeper into, because literally this would be a whole class in and of itself. Like, so I'm going to try and respect your time and keep this at around an hour and a half, like we've been doing. So I can't go so deeply into all of like the health and the habits and the diet and the exercise and all of that. But that is something that is in the holistic wellbeing workshop. And I will be dropping it in the membership, because I realized that it's not in there. I don't think. Maybe it is. Jesus Christ, I don't fucking know. But I'll double check on that just to see if it's in the membership right now. So when I talk about plugging in, you might be like, what does she mean by that? She says that all the time, but I don't necessarily know what she means by plugging in. Like, what am I plugging into? What is that? I want you to think about the fact that, like, think of a plug, right? Like, there's a source, and then you're plugging in something, whatever the device is, and that's how you're getting energy, whether you're charging your phone, whether you're plugging your hair dryer in, whatever it is, you're plugging something in, and that's how it's plugging into the source. What I want you to realize is, you are the plug and the universe is the source. So you have the ability to plug in at every moment into something that's greater than this physical body. You have the ability to tap into the divinity that's within you. That's literally what this says on my arm. And this was tattooed when I was 19. I've been on this spiritual journey since I was 16 years old, like deeply, deeply into it. But it says Om Namah Shivaya, and that means I honor the divinity that resides within me. Where I find a lot of people losing their stamina in manifestation is one, they're not taking care of themselves. They don't have healthy habits set up. And they're allowing their ego to use the excuses of, well, of course I'm going to sit on my phone and scroll on my phone as soon as I wake up. Of course I'm going to sit in my bed at night and scroll on my phone. How egoic is that, though? Is that actually setting you up for success? No. And if we talk about the blue ray lights, if we talk about how unnatural that is, that's actually dysregulating your circadian rhythm, and that's making it why you have insomnia. No excuses. I had the worst insomnia my entire life. And then when I started doing this wellness journey, that's when I was like, oh, fuck. I can go so much deeper. I can go so much wider. I can go so much higher on my spiritual journey because what am I doing? I'm plugging in, I'm grounding in. So, in order for you to tap into this high vibrational frequency of enlightenment, of peace, you've got to be grounding in the present moment. And that means making sure you're fully hydrated. That means eating healthy. Because I don't know if you guys know this or not, but your, well, I totally just give me a second. Digestion, just lost the word for digestion. Good Lord. Bear with me and my sick brain right now. So your digestion actually takes so much energy from you that's why you're not supposed to eat after 7 p.m. at night, because it's going to disrupt your sleep cycle, because so much energy has to go into digestion. If you're constantly binge eating, if you're constantly eating crap food, then your digestion is on overload. And that means you have less energy for the rest of your organs to function properly. You have less energy for you. You have less energy to do the thing. And here's the thing, how many of you, when you're feeling tired, when you're feeling kind of cranky, when you're feeling like drained, how many of you skip your meditation? How many of you skip the journaling practice? How many of you skip taking the time for yourself in the morning? Because, right, like we just don't feel like it. And it's like, well, I don't have enough energy to do anything else. But it's like you need to be able to have a really sacred morning routine. It doesn't need to be the same every day, but you need to be tapping into your own energy, and you really need to be co-creating the energy and the space that you want to be in. And you need to start having this sacred relationship with not only yourself, but then with the divine, because you've created this sacred relationship with yourself where your energy can flow, where your chakras are aligned, where you can receive these downloads. One of the main questions I get asked is, Alexa, how do I take aligned action? How do I have inspired action? And those people are always asking me from a place of being detached from their body. They aren't actually in the present moment. They aren't actually tuning in to their highest self, connecting to the universe, connecting to God, source, whatever word you want to use, because they don't have a connection with themselves, and then they aren't creating space to have a connection with the divine. And when you aren't connecting to your highest self, when you aren't connecting to the universe, when you aren't connecting to source, that's when you start egoically manifesting. You start manifesting something to get something because you don't feel good right now, or because somebody else has it, or whatever it is. But you're not actually having a high intentionality with the manifesting. You're not really coming from this place of peace. You're not coming from a vibration of love. And if you're trying to manifest a specific person, you have to be in the frequency of love. In order for you to attract, law of attraction 101, in order for you to attract love, you need to be in the vibration of love. And how do you do that? You love yourself, right? And one of the first steps to that is connecting to something greater than you, because then you actually have this hindsight is 2020 view of yourself, and you see how divinely perfect you are. Because you're a human, you're never actually going to be perfect. But when you can fall in love with your imperfections, that is when your entire perspective changes. That is when you're able to look through the world with those rose-colored glasses on. That's when you're able to have compassion for other people in your life, even if it's somebody that is saying something that you disagree with. You're able to not feel like you need to get in this dispute with them. You don't need to have this like dialogue. You can actually just like send them love, and you can hold your energy, because you're not so wrapped up in what's going on outside of you. You've connected with yourself, and you've connected with source. And because you've taken that time to connect with yourself, because you have healthy habits to be able to connect with yourself and have like actual source energy flowing through you, that's when you're receiving the divine downloads. That's when you know how to take the inspired action. That's when you know where the aligned action is, because you're actually tuning in. That's where it's going to come from. You've got to be in the present moment. You've got to be connected to something greater than yourself to be able to even receive the downloads. Because if you're not, then it's you just mentally trying to figure out how to get something because you don't have something and you don't feel good. And that's like egoic manifestation 101. And that's where I find a lot of people are getting trapped up in. Your reality is always catching up with you. Extract the wisdom and ground within your knowledge. Perspective of the external 3D is key. Exactly, exactly, exactly. And we already talked about how you can choose to show up differently. You can choose to see it differently. We've talked about how to set energetic standards. We've talked about how to communicate differently. We've talked about not getting so attached. And now it's like through connecting with source, through connecting to the divinity within us, we're actually learning how to surrender, right? How to trust, right? Because when we don't trust, when we don't surrender, we're trying to force everything into creation. So we're not in flow. That's like if we are in a kayak or you're in a canoe. I grew up on a lake, so canoeing is something I've done my entire life. And I'll never forget this one time I took my boyfriend. So my boyfriend had a roommate, and his roommate was from California originally. His girlfriend was in, and I love her. We still have an amazing connection. And he had never been to a lake. He was a model. He was beautiful, lacking a lot of intelligence, but a gorgeous man. And so I'll never forget this one time. I was like, all right, let's get in the canoe. Let's go canoeing. And it was just the two of us in the canoe. It's not a big lake that I grew up on. So it's like, it wouldn't take too long. And I'm in the back. If you've ever been in a canoe, you steer from the back, right? And it's like you turn the paddle based on where you're going. But normally both of you are working together. So that's how you're going in the right place. Because if one of you isn't, that's when you start going in circles, right? So I am exhausted. I'm a very, very strong woman. Like, especially if you saw how big I am, I'm not a big human, but I have a lot of strength. My family calls me when they want furniture moved, when they need anything physical done. It's like the running joke because I'm the smallest one in the family and I'll get shit done the fastest and I can move shit. Like, people are like, dude, what? It's like truly insane. So I'm a strong woman and I'm like, why are we not getting anywhere? Like, well, I keep having to switch sides, which normally you don't have to do. That's to like course correct. And I'm constantly switching sides. I look up and his name is Tyler. We don't talk anymore, so I feel like I could say his name. And Tyler has the biggest fucking smile on his face because he's so excited. He's connecting with nature. Like he feels like the energy. And he's got his oar just in the water and he's just holding it down. Now, if you know how to canoe, that's how you stop a canoe. So I'm in the back of the canoe trying to get us to like go fucking somewhere. And he's in the front so happy, completely disillusioned to what is happening. And he's just holding the oar, taking the sights in, looking around. Like we're not going anywhere. So he's just like looking at everything. But in that moment, I couldn't even say anything to him because I looked up and even though I'm sweaty, even though like a minute ago I was a little frustrated because I was like, what is happening right now? Like I've been canoeing my entire life. Like why aren't we getting anywhere? I look up and I see him so goddamn happy. One, because he's connecting with nature. And like you just can't deny the feeling when you're connected with nature. Like it just feels so good. It's the closest you're going to get to enlightenment without doing the work in yourself. And so I just stopped. Like I just stopped worrying and I just let us sit there. He was happy as a clam. He didn't know what he was doing anyway. He obviously didn't care if we were moving. But there's so many people that I find one part of them is like doing all this work, like they're trying to get places, they're trying to get to that manifestation. But the other part of them, they just got their oar in the water. They're actually working against themselves and they're trying so hard to get in this energetic alignment. They're trying so hard to live in the wish fulfilled. They're trying so hard to think these positive thoughts, but there's a part of them that's actually working against themselves. Does that resonate with you? Do you feel like maybe it isn't like the universe testing me? Maybe it's a part of me that I'm actually not focusing on, I'm not paying attention to, because I guess I didn't understand how interconnected this all was. But now that you like put it like that, I can see, oh, maybe I'm kind of working against myself. This is where I find a lot of people are at. They're working against themselves in manifestation. It's me. I'm not a Swiftie, but her one on her last album, I think it was, where she's like, "Hi, I'm the problem, it's me." I feel like that is where people are at when they're trying to manifest, but they haven't learned how to manifest. Sydney, that was just our coaching call. Reminder, that is so fucking funny because I had those dates all wrong. But anyway, Sydney and I just finished coaching like last week or the week before. I'm so sick. I don't know. Last week. So that's hilarious that just came up because she's in here right now. But yeah, hi, I'm the problem. It's me. That is like where I feel like a lot of people are at. So it's just about learning though, no blame, no shame. It's like, oh, wait a minute. Maybe I am actually contributing to this reality that I'm still creating, because I can't be at war with myself all day long. I can't be being lazy with the personal development. I can't be lazy with my taking care of my physical body. I can't pretend that like I'm doing all these things because I'm meditating in the morning or I'm saying my affirmations, but then the rest of the day I'm actually showing up out of alignment. I'm actually not trusting the universe. I'm actually not connecting with source. I'm actually staying up till like 3 a.m. binging Netflix, scrolling through TikTok, then barely getting any sleep, waking up because I hit the snooze alarm so many times. Then I'm just like chugging coffee, didn't have any time to connect with myself. Then I'm waking up tired. I'm in a bad mood. Then everybody is annoying me. Then people that teach me manifestation are annoying me because how can you be so positive? Like, we start getting into this cycle where we stop taking care of ourselves. We start feeling like shit. We don't see the results happening. And so we kind of give up. But it's like, we can't be dropping the ball in one of these areas. Manifestation is really learning how to juggle. And sometimes, yeah, you might drop a ball in one area, but it's like once you've noticed that you've dropped the ball, you've got to lovingly give more attention to that area, right? So it's like, this is why when people are like, manifestation is so easy, da da da. Yes, and manifestation is easy once you have learned to start doing the work on yourself. And it isn't just inner work. This is also the physical work that you're doing on your body. This is also the habits that you have daily, because a lot of the times we aren't getting our mindset right, we're not getting our energy right, we're not connecting with source, and then we're trying to do everything from A to Z and we're getting so fucking tired, and then we're using the excuse that we don't have time to take care of ourselves. What is that phrase that it's like an old Buddhist phrase that if you don't have 20 minutes a day to meditate, then you should meditate for an hour? How many of you have heard that and been like, I feel like I'm being called out right now and I don't really love it. Living in the end while hangry and sleeping is nuts. Yes, I needed to hear this. Exactly. And that's what I mean. I have said, and I teach this in the academy, that in order for you to be able to successfully, consciously manifest your dream life, you have to lay down the foundations. You can't just jump into deep energetic works, which law of assumption, in my opinion, is deep energetics. You can't try and start with like advanced energetic principles when you haven't laid the foundation of doing the personal development work, of doing the healing work, of doing the shadow work, on taking care of your body, on treating yourself better, on being kinder to yourself, on creating a loving relationship with yourself. Like, if you try and live in the wish fulfilled, but you haven't laid the foundation, that's what would happen if you tried to build a house and you didn't lay a foundation down. It doesn't matter how beautiful that fucking house is. It doesn't matter how much time you spent building it. It doesn't matter if you hired the best contractor in the world. If y'all forgot to look at the ground and you forgot to say, oh, well, I didn't redo the foundation before I hired you, and they didn't look at the foundation because they just assumed you did it. Like, that's where people are teaching you law of assumption, but they're under the assumption that you've done the foundational work. And the majority of the collective hasn't. And that's not a shame or blame game. It's just because this conversation isn't had enough, because people are like, well, you can just live in the wish fulfilled and you'll just manifest whatever. But how many of you have been struggling with living in the wish fulfilled? And then you start feeling like you have done something wrong because everyone is telling you it's so fucking easy to live in the wish fulfilled, that you're like, well, apparently, like, even though these are universal laws and everybody says that they work for everyone, like, I'm always manifesting, apparently I'm broken. Like, I'm the exception to the immutable universal laws. Like, I don't know what's going on, but it's me. It's not you. It's that you just have been taught how to manifest at fucking like the fifth level. But even think about school. We go through kindergarten, first grade, second grade, third grade, fourth grade before we get to fifth grade, right? And if you're in the UK, I know that your schooling is different, but just go with the Americanisms over here. So it's like, if you were 5 years old and your parents were like, okay, you're really smart, I trust you, go into fifth grade, you'd be like, I what is math? How do I write? Like, you would be like, okay, like, I hear what you're saying, but I have no ground to stand on. I don't have a leg to stand on. Like, I don't have the context to like to get me to there. I don't have the tools. Like, I don't know how to do this. And that's where I find a lot of people are like just going right into law of assumption because it blew up on TikTok. And then they're like really struggling. And then they live in the wish fulfilled, but law of polarity kicks in and they're actually spending more time frustrated in their not self theme and human design, not living in the wish fulfilled because they aren't taking care of themselves. And so they're trying to practice these deep energetic principles. Everything is tied together. So they're not grounded. They don't have a healthy body. They're not sleeping enough. They're not taking care of themselves enough. They're still beating themselves up. They're still harboring negative emotions from people in their past. They're still feeling like, ugh, in their bodies. They aren't doing anything to like get their energy right. They're not changing their physiology. And then they're like, oh, well, I read a Neville Goddard book, or I watched this person who teaches me that all I need to do is this. And it's like, they're setting you up for failure. Quite honestly, they're setting you up for failure because even if they're assuming the best of you, assumptions aren't enough. We can't just assume. I can't just assume that you've done mirror work. I can't just assume that you've done the healing work. I can't just assume that you've got healthy habits. I can't just assume. And that's why a lot of times when I'm on coaching calls with clients, they'll be like, yeah, well, this is the problem, da, da, da. And I'll be like, how much sleep are you getting? Have you been drinking enough water? Have you been getting outside enough? Have you been meditating? And a lot of times people get frustrated with that line of questioning because they're like, I'm telling you that I'm not manifesting money in my business, Alexa. Like, I need more sales. And I'm like, okay, but like, who's the common denominator in manifestation, in co-creation? You, right? So if you're not taking care of yourself, if you're not showing up differently, if you don't have the energy to really be able to dedicate to living in the wish fulfilled, it's like we've got to look at these pieces. And sometimes we drop the ball in some areas, like the holidays are coming up. So we're eating more sugar, we're eating more food, we're spending more time with people that aren't doing the work. You know, like there's a lot of excuses that we can use at like this time of the year. It's cold, I don't want to be outside. Da, 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 da. Like there's a lot of fucking excuses that we can come up with. But just with anything, like once something becomes a habit, once it drops into your self identity, which we'll talk about on day 5, it's just something that you do. So the thing is like once you become a healthy human, once you master the mindset and think more positively, it's just who you are. Once you master your emotional intelligence and like start knowing how to not give your power away to the circumstances, not being reactive and responsive to what's happening outside of you, that's just who you are. And yeah, of course, sometimes you might slip in one of the areas, but you know how to clean it up because you've just been doing it for so long. This is the same for when we have healthy habits with ourselves and when we have this deep connection with source and when we're actually grounding into our bodies, having healthy habits, being able to sit with ourselves so that way we can connect with source. Because if you can't sit with yourself, if you can't sit in silence, you're going to have a really fucking hard time with personal growth. You're going to have a really fucking hard time consistently, consciously manifesting. Because if you're at war with yourself and if you can't sit with yourself, you're always going to be distracted. You're always going to have a television on. You're always going to have music on. You're always going to have TikTok and scrolling. You're never going to be able to meditate. You're not going to be able to really receive the inspired action. You're going to be in this energy of like, well, I don't want to sit in the present moment. I'd rather just disassociate or I'd rather be doing something. And it's like, we have to balance the doing and the being. And a lot of the times, because we've been trained in this rat race cycle, we're focusing on doing. But if you do from lack, like I always tell you guys, if you're in lack consciousness and lack energy, and then you take action from that place, that is a self-fulfilling prophecy where you're just going to get more lack, because the energy and the mindset that you're in while you're doing the thing is actually determining and dictating the results of that thing. And that's why I'll always tell you guys in manifestation, work smarter, not harder. So it's about really building on these healthy habits. It's about really drinking more water, getting outside more, not with your phone. Hot girl walks. You are not a hot girl walking if you've got your AirPods in and you've got your phone every single day. When I see people walking their dogs and they're on their phone, I just want to yell, put your phone away. Put your phone away. What are you doing? What are you doing? You can get so much. You can get so much from the external world because there is source in everything. You can connect to the trees. Think about when you're in the shower. How many of you get like the most amount of downloads and the most inspiration when you're in the shower? Why do you think that is? Because one, you're with yourself, you're being present in one place, and two, three, whatever number we're at, and you are submersed in water. Your body is mostly water. This planet is mostly water. As above, so below. We get more of a connection and we stop taking ourselves so seriously and our life so seriously. Think about day one when I talked about doing the mindset work and you're taking it so seriously. That's when a lot of people like struggle because it's like, oh, it's just more work to do. But what if, like that saying, when you love what you do, you never work a day? Like, what if you fall in love with personal development? It doesn't feel like you're working at it. It feels like you're just falling in love with yourself even more. When you can walk around and have this state of enlightenment, when you can walk around and have this love, when you can walk around in this heart-centered space where you don't feel like you have to correct everyone, where you're not getting into these arguments with people, where you're not trying to always be right, like you're actually listening more. How much time do you spend your day listening? How much time are you actually listening to the people around you? How much time are you listening outside? Like, I listen to the wind. I listen to the trees. And we're gonna take that as a sign because I don't even know where that dog is that just barked, but there's normally no dogs around here. But how much are you listening to nature? How much are you connecting? Like, I always just think of like Pocahontas vibes. Like, are you there? And I'm not saying you have to go live out in the woods, but are you navigating this digital world and the fact that you are still an earthling? You still need to have connection. You still need to put your bare feet on the ground. You still need to get outside. You still need to get sunlight. Like this, we've been trained in modern day society to completely lose our connection with food, to completely lose our connection with the outside world. Like, we're taught not to go out in the sun when the sun is like the biggest healer. We're taught to put all these chemicals on our skin, sunscreen, so that way we don't get burned. But it's like, we have sunglasses on and our eyes are actually tied to the sun, and our eyes can actually tell us how long we should be out in the sun, but not if you've got sunglasses on all the time. Like, there's so many layers to this that we could go into. And yes, I'm gonna like create a whole program on this besides just the holistic well-being workshop, because that's like, I want to say a 70-page like book basically. But do you see how like deeply nuanced this is? Like, are you understanding? I want you guys to drop down, like, honestly, in the comments. Have you been sleeping on the connection with yourself? Have you not actually been meditating? Have you not actually been connecting with source? Have you kind of been trying to micromanage the universe and your manifestations? And again, make sure that you join the program on my website for free, so that way you can join in the chat and ask questions. So that way you can really be a part. You'll get the homework, you'll get the replays. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the homework, and then if we have any questions. Oh wait, there was a question that I saw that I wanted to come back to. Hold on. Where was it? I know that we are our 3D, but when bad things happen in our 3D, how do we ground ourselves in that way? So, one, replay yesterday, because we talked about how to not let your 3D and how to let your 3D circumstances to dictate how you feel, how you speak, and how you engage, how you react, how you respond. So go back to that because we did lay the foundation there. But it's like, and with the perspective too. So I would say that like make sure you're caught up on day 1 and day 2 because we talked about perspective. We talked about that. So bad things, there is no good and bad. Like these are man-made constructs. It's not like good or bad exists in the universe. The universe doesn't see good or bad. That's why the whole like Christian like concept of there's this Santa Claus in the sky that gives you heaven if you're a good girl or good boy and gives you hell, like gives you coal if you're a bad boy or bad girl. Like it's just the most ridiculous thing because that girl, stop. That is conditional love. All right, hold on. Let me just go. Come on. Go, 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 go. Both of you. Bye. Dog mom life. So how many of us are like still operating in life in this conditional power, right? Like where it's like we are feeling like we can't love ourselves until we do this and that, or we're judging the people in our lives, or we are trying to have something be some way, like we're trying to control everything. So one, we've got to release our control because control is causing more restriction. It's causing more resistance because you're trying to control things. That's like the whole analogy of the canoe. When you're trying to control everything, you're like Tyler, who's just, you might have a smile on your face, but you're not helping yourself get anywhere. You just got your oar in the water. And so it's like, what you've got to realize is it's not about, first of all, why are you assigning a negative meaning to something? Saying that something is bad means that you're getting into an egoic, you're starting to judge what's happening. And when you start judging, that's when we're not witnessing, right? You're not witnessing what's happening. And that means that you're not extracting the wisdom. You're not learning the lesson. And then you're probably going to get stuck repeating a pattern. And this is real work, real life shadow work, like where you are paying attention all day long. So one, we're not assigning a negative meaning to something and saying that it's bad. You have control over that. You get to decide. And if you just learn that everything is always happening for me because I'm creating what's happening, and if I know that I'm creating what's happening, my highest self is creating this so that way I learn a lesson, so that way I transcend a pattern, so that way I can show up as a better version of myself. So then it's like, when you understand that everything that's happening outside of you is happening for you, that if you can look and see God or universe or source, whatever term you're comfortable with, in the people and in the events, and even if it is the most quote unquote unfortunate event, can you see the beauty in it? Can you learn to see the beauty so that way you can stay in a heart-centered space? Because when we go up into our mind and we start judging and we start saying that that's bad and that shouldn't be happening to me, and why is this happening to me? Why do bad things always happen to me? We're getting egoic. We're living in our mind again. And the idea is we're dropping into our body. We're dropping into our heart. And that means that we're showing up with compassion. So that means that we're going to send love to the people. We're going to have compassion for the situation. And we're also going to decide, like, I get to decide what this means for me. There is no meaning built into the universe. We as humans assign meaning. And so you get to decide what meaning you assign. But what if you weren't so quick to assign a negative meaning to it? And what if you were actually able to sit with what was happening and really look at it? Not be so attached to it, not coming at it in a problem frequency like we talked about, but being able to witness it and then being able to really notice what's happening, notice how we desire to respond, look at what we could be learning from this, extract the wisdom that's available for us, and then be like, I'm always winning. I'm always winning. I'm either getting the manifestation or I'm getting the lesson that I need to learn to manifest the thing, to become the person who gets the manifestation. So it's like grounding yourself. Here's the thing, is like when you're grounded in yourself, you're able to have this higher perception because you're taking care of yourself. It's going to be way harder for you to not get attached to what's going on and assign a negative meaning if you didn't get enough sleep last night, if you skipped a meal because you're trying to get work done, if you have been eating a bunch of processed foods, so that way you're cranky and you're irritated and you're agitated. Because if you're emotionally charged going into something like we talked about yesterday, then your reaction and your response and the energy that you're going to be in is going to be emotionally charged. And if you're already looking at something from a problem frequency, you're not going to be able to find the solution, right? So you've got to be able to change your frequency, change your mindset. And we've already talked about how to do that. But then it's like, you've got to be taking care of yourself. You've got to make sure that you're getting enough sleep at night. You've got to make sure that you're drinking enough water. You've got to make sure that you're eating a bunch of nutrient dense foods, because this all goes into your mindset. Remember, your gut and your brain have a direct connection. There's a direct correlation. So if all of your energy is going to processing all of the shitty processed foods that you've been eating, and you've been drinking a bunch of soda, so it's like you're not getting nutrients, and then you haven't been getting enough sleep, and then something happens and society has told you that that's bad, so then you get super attached to it, then you start playing the victim, then you come from an egoic lens. Do you see how it all like cycles out so quickly? That's why it's so essential that, remember the whole juggling metaphor. We've got to be juggling all of the balls. You've got to be able to witness something. Remember when we talked about yesterday, pausing and pivoting? Instead of you automatically responding and reacting, if you're paying attention to, if you're conscious to the fact that, you know what, I really didn't get enough sleep last night, so I'm going to have to be super conscious today about how I'm reacting, how I'm responding. I'm going to have to drink a lot more water today. I'm going to have to make sure I'm eating a lot healthier foods. Like, when we're paying attention to not only our mindset, not only our energy and our emotions, but we're also paying attention to our body and paying attention to how connected we are with our highest self, that's when we're not being super reactive over what's happening outside of us, because we actually have the clarity to look at it through a higher perspective. Does that make sense? I see. I guess when I said bad, I meant like illnesses and stuff. I guess you really can see the beauty in everything. You can. And here's the thing, right now, like when I tell you that I was like sweating balls all night last night. I went to bed at 7 p.m. I went to bed. I had 5 books. I was so sick that I could barely even read the books. Like I was flipping, like I had ADHD. I was like flipping through books. I went to bed listening to a sleep track, and then I couldn't sleep. I was sweating all night. I was up at 5 a.m. I had to take more cold medicine. Then I watched a documentary and then I put on a spiritual teaching, and then I fell asleep to that, and then I woke up at 10:30 and was like, I can't breathe, like I can't speak. Do you know how many people would have just like pulled out of this 5-day thing? Well, I'm doing it for free. What the fuck? Like I could just cancel this. Who cares that 70 plus people have signed up for it and even more people are coming live every single day? They would have just canceled it. They would have called in sick. They would have stopped doing the work. Instead, I'm like, okay, your girl is sick as fuck. But if you've been paying attention, if you like follow me on Instagram, because I post a lot of like behind the scenes, like you've been seeing that I have been doing, when I tell you like the level of spiritual ascension work that I've been doing this week, not this week, but the past like 2 weeks, I always say, like, have your feet in the ground and your head in space. I have been in fucking space. Like, I have been meditating. Like, there was one day where I was like literally meditating and doing projections, like astral projections, but being awake for like 8 fucking hours. So, of course, my physical body is going to bear that. Of course, I could be getting sick because of that. Of course, I am now, if we talk about it from a spiritual ascension view, I'm holding higher frequencies in my body. My body is learning how to adjust, holding at these higher frequencies. Would my body learn how to adjust holding at these higher frequencies if I didn't stay there? If I just went back to being Alexa that hadn't done like this 2 week deep like spiritual ascension. No. You know what I mean? So it's like I can lovingly see like, okay, and my mother had a huge fucking Christmas party on Friday and somebody was probably sick. You know what I mean? Like somebody probably didn't wash their hands enough or like whatever. There's a bunch of reasons why I could be sick, but like is me focusing on my sickness going to help me show up? Is it going to help me raise my energy? No. It's like I have to just work around it. So what am I doing? I'm drinking a shitload of tea. I'm drinking a shitload of water. I'm making sure I'm getting sleep, even if it's broken up sleep. I'm making sure that I'm listening in my mind and consuming, just like you need to have a mental diet and a physical diet. I'm consuming high vibrational stuff. I'm not just like binging out on Netflix and eating Cheetos and like wallowing like in all my tissues. You know what I mean? Like, don't let even illness be an excuse. And from a certified Reiki master sense, like if you focus on the illness, you're going to create more illness. So it's like, I have been telling myself that I'm healthy. I'm the healthiest person in the world. I'm so fucking healthy. The amount of times I say this, if you watched my video on how I healed myself naturally from COVID with an autoimmune disease, that was one thing that I did 20 fucking times. 25 times, minimally, an hour. I'm not exaggerating. Every single hour that I was awake, I told myself that I was healthy. Even though I was like, felt like I was hallucinating because I was so sick. Even though I couldn't breathe out of my nose. Even though I didn't have the energy to take 5 fucking steps. I'm so fucking healthy. I'm so fucking healthy. I'm so fucking healthy. Even though like I'm saying to you guys, because you're probably like, what's up with your voice? And like, why are you a snotty mess? Like, I'm going to keep it real with you guys, but I'm not hyper focusing on it. I'm manifesting fucking health. Like, I'm a healthy human being. This is just a symptom and a side effect from the fact that as a spiritual teacher, I go really deep into the spiritual work. And like, I'm a living embodiment of it. And I'm showing up for you guys. This is free. And it's still more information than most people would ever give you in a fucking paid class. You know what I mean? Like the things that I'm giving you, they're tangible. They're takeaways. So it's like, being sick isn't bad. It's just a thing. It's just something that happens, and it happens to all of us at different times. But it's like, and this is a conversation I always have with my clients. It's like, who are you when things aren't going your way? How do you show up when it looks like things aren't working out? Who are you when you are sick? Like, who are you when you got the bill, when the person ghosted you, when you're going through the breakup? Like, who are you then? Because it's super fucking easy to show up with your shit together when everything's going your way. But who are you, even though things are not exactly how you want them to be? Because that person that you forge right there in the flames, that's the motherfucker that can walk through anything with a loving awareness, with a heart-centered space, with compassion for others. And here's the thing is, a lot of like spiritual teachings in the past have been like, disassociate, don't pay attention to current events. And while I'll tell you never to watch the news because it's a fear-based paradigm that's not educating you or informing you, you can't like be completely ignorant to what's going on in the world. Can you witness the fact that we're going through a real life genocide right now and we're seeing it and no one's doing anything about it? Can you witness that and be in a heart-centered place? This is the work. This is the work. You came here to navigate duality. You came here to master lack and duality. Can you master it while it's happening? Because that's when you master it. That's when you master it. I'm so proud of you. Oh, thank you. Wow, that is so true. Same thing with anxiety for me. Exactly. And here's the thing. Like, used to suffer from the worst anxiety fucking ever. Used to have panic attacks that would take your girl out. And I have this weird thing that I can't remember the name of it because I don't attach myself to illnesses. But if I have a panic attack, I will pass out and it looks like I'm having a seizure. Super fun. That hasn't happened to me in like over a decade. Bless. But it's because I've been doing this work, right? Like I was on all the anxiety medicines, like all the things. Anxiety means you're not in your body and you are focusing on the future from a worried state. Doing breath work, taking care of yourself, taking care of your, like, when you just change your fucking diet, girl, when you get more sleep, when you drink more water, when you breathe more and you're in the present moment, you're going to laugh at little anxiety ridden you who just like, bless her, she was doing her best, but like she was working against herself. And it's not your fault. Society doesn't teach you how to not have anxiety. And I would argue that over the past few years, with us talking more about mental health, which is a great thing, but remember the contradictions. Yes, it's great to talk about mental health, and we're not trying to get so stuck in the label that, and this is what a lot of people do with disease too. We're not trying to get so stuck and identified with the label that we're using it as an excuse. I would, if I never, this past year, past few months especially, people are blowing up the fact that they have ADHD. If I never hear another person use ADHD for a goddamn excuse, like, we got to stop. And the thing is you have so much more power over your mental health when you actually change your physical health, and when you show up differently with your habits, and when you think differently, and when you, like, do you see how we're adding on? So this is a conversation that a lot of people don't have. And then this is why a lot of people struggle, because they're not in the present moment. They aren't connected with source. They aren't seeing that everything is happening for them. They aren't surrendering to the fact that they don't need to know how it's all going to work out. They just need to put their blinders on and keep going in the direction of their manifestation, becoming the person that they want to be day in and day out, and not getting lazy with doing this work on themselves. And the thing is at the beginning, it might take more energy and more practice, but once you start doing this work, then it's just like, this is who you are. This is who you are. And then you don't have to consciously do as much of the work, because you've unconsciously integrated this work into your unconscious. Setting healthy, right? Thank you so much. So we are coming up at that 2.5 hour point. If you guys have any more questions, feel free to drop them below. But so the homework and the way to really, like, the 5 steps that I'm going to give you for you connecting is, we're always starting at being conscious. Like, you guys see this right now. Like, if you haven't caught on, we're always starting at being conscious. Because if we're not conscious, then what are we? Unconscious. And our unconscious is where a bunch of the problems are, because we've been programmed out of alignment. So it's like, we've got to stay super conscious while we're doing this work, so that way we can actually change our unconscious beliefs, so we can change our unconscious patterns, so we can change our unconscious programmings. And then our unconscious is going to be more in alignment with what we're trying to do consciously. And then we don't have to try as much. We just get to be, and it gets to be a lot more fun and exciting. So you've got to start becoming the conscious observer of life, witnessing what is happening around you, not attaching to it, not being so reactive and responsive, not using excuses from the ego that I didn't get enough sleep, or like my stomach's bothering me, or I have a headache, or blah, blah, blah. We're being conscious of what's happening. And then we notice what's coming up within us. And is that coming up within us because we're not giving ourselves something? Did we not, like, not giving ourselves something that we need? Did you not get enough sleep last night? Did you not drink enough water? Are you slacking on working out? Have you not been outside in days? Have you just been staring at screens? Have you not sat with yourself? Have you not been able to really evaluate what's going on? Like, notice what's coming up in you, and then notice, where have you been slacking? What haven't you been giving yourself that you actually need? 3 is connecting with source. You can do this by meditating. You can do it by praying. You can do it by sitting out in nature. You can do it by sitting in stillness. You can do it by surrendering more. You can do it by trusting more. Here's the thing is, like I always tell you guys in manifestation, you need to get clear on what you desire, why you desire it, and who you need to be in order to get it. The how isn't up to you. That's the heavy lifting. You leave it to the universe. We'll go deep into this tomorrow when we talk about manifesting. And the time doesn't matter, because time is illusion, divine timing. It's always happening when it's meant to happen. So when you're able to surrender, when you're able to meditate more, when you're able to pray more, and not praying from lack, we're not, universe, please give me this, universe, please, I want this, please, 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 please. No, we're not like asking for something that we're not giving ourselves. We are praying to the universe, so that way we're setting our intentions out. We're affirming to the universe. We're declaring to the universe what we want. And then when we meditate, that's how the universe connects with us. So prayer is the universe listening to you. Meditation is you listening to the universe. So you've got to start listening to the universe. You've got to be able to be quiet, be still. And here's the thing is, meditation doesn't mean that you necessarily have to sit and say Om for 20 minutes and repeat that over and over again. That's transcendental meditation. That's only one type of meditation. Mindfulness and walking meditations, like if you think about Buddhist monks, they aren't, well, yes, they do spend a lot of time in meditation. They aren't always in meditation, but they're always in a state of mindfulness. When you are in a state of mindfulness, you are in this heart-centered space where you're able to approach life with this compassion, where you're able to have this ability to observe what's happening outside of you, what's happening inside of you. And when you are observing, you have a choice. You have a choice of how to respond. You actually have clues within the observation that tells you like what you might need to be doing more of, or where you need to go next, or the next step. Because the universe is always dropping to you downloads, but are you able to hear them? Are you connecting with the universe so that you can actually hear the divine downloads? Because you can only take inspired action and aligned action if you're in alignment and if you're receiving the inspiration, right? And the inspiration isn't going to be like a fucking 70-page, do this, step 1, get to page 20 or get to page 70 and you'll get to step 25. That's not how it works. But when you trust the universe, you're no longer listening to logic. You're in this heart-centered space where you're actually able to receive the download. And even though it doesn't make logical sense, you're not trying to make logical sense of the world anymore. You've been there, done that, wasn't amazing. You're actually now living in your heart. And step 4, dropping into a heart-centered space where you're coming back to your compassion, where you're seeing through the eyes of love, where you're actually extracting wisdom, external wisdom, and you're always having this mindful presence, this peace about you. And of course, sometimes you might lose it. You might always not always anchor into it, but it's like the only way you're going to get better at tapping into enlightenment, raising your vibration, is the practice and coming back to it, noticing when you've slipped out and coming back quickly. So it's like noticing when you've gone to your ego again, noticing when you've gotten into your mind, noticing when you're trying to micromanage the manifestation, noticing when you're starting to feel lack. Because lack means you're not in the present moment and you're not connected to the present moment. You're not living from your heart. And remember, your heart is the electromagnetic force field that creates your electronic signature. This is what the universe is responding to. It's not just your thoughts. It's the frequency that we're giving off, the feelings that we're feeling. So when you're able to come into this love, heart-centered space, that's when you're able to really find the beauty in everything, right? Like instead of being like, this is bad, this shouldn't have happened, why is this happening to me? It's like, okay, well, this is happening. So who am I going to choose to be while I'm going through this? How am I going to choose to think while this is happening? How am I going to choose to feel while this is happening? Because I always get to choose. And when you start doing this work, and you see how we're compounding, we started doing the mental work, we started doing the emotional, energetic work, and now we're really starting to ground in so that way we can receive the downloads. So that way we're not doing this whole life journey by ourselves, because you're always connected to everything. Separation is an illusion. And when you come back to that, and when you tap into that love that like is all around, and you stop buying into this disillusion matrix where they're trying to separate us constantly and they're trying to have us fight amongst each other so that we don't connect, so that way we don't come together. It's like you've got to do the work to put on your oxygen mask first and then be able to save everyone else. But we're like not trying to go out and save the world. We're showing up differently, and then we're modeling what it's like for the world to show up differently, trusting that the world is going to be a reflection of the work that we're doing, right? And then step 5 is to listen to the downloads. When you're connected, you receive the downloads that guide you to take the next step. You're tuning out your logical mind, because what does logic do? It caps magic. So these are really the 5 steps that I want you to look at today. And this one, like in order to do this work, you're going to like all of it. There's 5 steps that we can potently go through, change in the moment. But then there's also what we have to look at. We have to be very honest with ourselves. Like, have your habits up until this point, even, and let's not look at forever, but like the last week, your habits in the last week, have they been in alignment with the version of you that you desire to be? Have they been in alignment with the person that you would be if you had your manifestations already? Or are you still kind of in that mindset of, I'll change how I'm showing up. I'll change how I think. I change how I speak. I'll change how I feel when things outside of me change. Because you're going to forever be that hamster on the wheel if that's where you're at. So it's like really, really being honest and looking at yourself and taking accountability of, are my habits right now actually in alignment? Am I taking actions that are in alignment? Is my mindset right? Is my energy right? Are my emotions right? Am I taking care of my body? Am I actually holding myself accountable? Am I doing the things that I would say I would do for myself? Because how many times are we showing up as our best selves for other people, but then when it comes to actually tending to ourselves, we're totally slacking. And this is like, women do this the most because we're taught to like take care of everyone else first, especially if you're a mother, and that's fucking bullshit. You need to be taking care of yourself first, so that way you can model to your children, model to your family what it is like to have a healthy relationship with yourself, so that way you can actually show up as the best version of yourself for yourself and for everyone else. Are baby steps okay, or should we take big steps to speed it up? That's a great question. And here's the thing, use discernment, right? Because we don't want to take such big steps that we're not building that foundation and we're not grounding in. We don't want to take such big steps that we're actually dysregulating our nervous system because we're trying to get so far ahead, quote unquote, that we're actually not like meeting ourselves where we're at. So I want you to meet yourself where you're at, and don't allow yourself to slack and take smaller steps because your ego is like, well, we could take some time with this. Da, 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 da. Do you see how like there's always an and? So it's like, use discernment. Don't try and get too far ahead of yourself. Meet yourself where you're at, but don't allow yourself to slack off. Do the work. Be consistent with it. Be really fucking honest with yourself. Be accountable, whether your habits, whether your health, whether your love for yourself, whether the thoughts of yourself, like, is all of this actually in alignment with the version of you that you desire to be? Like, are you being the version of yourself right now that you would be if you had everything manifested already? Or are you still kind of waiting for all of the things to manifest so you can be the person? Because you always have to be the person and then it manifests. So I don't want you to try and like hit the ground running where you're like running like the road runner and like your feet aren't on the ground, right? Because then we're not going to be grounded. But it's like, I want you to start like today, especially, I want you to take an honest inventory of your habits, of your health, of how much time you're connecting with yourself, how much time you're sitting with yourself, how much of a sacred space you're creating for yourself, how much you feel at home in your body. Like, this is where I really want you to pay attention to. And then, so that's like taking the baby steps, looking at it. And then this to speed it up, it's like, so we're not going to wait until next year. We're not going to wait until January 1st. We're not going to wait until next Monday to get better sleep, to start reading more books, to start working out more, to get outside more. Like, what can you do today? Okay, now that we've witnessed where we're out of alignment, where we're ungrounded, what are we going to do today to take a step now to get more grounded, to get more in alignment? Do you see where like I'm coming from there? So really just look at where you've been slacking a little bit, where you need to give yourself more love, more grace, where you need to ground more, where you need to connect more. And then get really clear with yourself on, what can I do today to shift? Like, what can I do in this moment to shift? I'm feeling anxious. I can go for a walk right now. I'm starting to notice that I'm starting to get really attached to the 3D. Then I can turn off my phone and I can sit and I can meditate. I'm starting to notice that I haven't been going to sleep really early. I've been staying up way too late on TikTok. Then I'm going to put my phone away at this time at 10 p.m. And then I'm going to put my phone in another room and I'm going to read a book so that way I can fall asleep earlier. See what I mean? It's like, we have to understand what we've been doing, but then we also have to, in the moment, see what we can shift. So it's not about like these crazy big drastic shifts, but it's like, I haven't been feeling well. Well, I've been drinking 4 sodas a day. So instead, every meal that I have, I'm going to drink water. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, what are these small declarations that you can actually build into your life? Because the small declarations become the habits, and that's how we sustainably have a healthy life. We're not trying to go from, I've been eating sugar every single day, drinking soda, eating processed foods, and now I'm going to say that all I'm going to eat is a plant-based diet and only drink water. You'll never be able to stick with that because it's like too far from what you were doing. So it's like, cut out some of the soda, replace it with water, allow yourself to eat one dessert a day or one treat a day. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, how can we look at, like, honestly where we've been, and then how can we start cleaning it up in the moment, day by day? Because if you notice but you don't do anything about it, that's when we're going to get into this shamey, blamey, or I should be doing. Fuck that, just do it. No shoulds, we're doing it. We're doing the damn thing. But we're also not like, well, I haven't worked out in 3 years, so I'm going to go run a 5K. You know, like, balance. That's how we're going to actually apply it, and it'll be sustainable. All right, you guys, I truly don't think that my voice is going to be able to give up to like keep talking anymore. So I'm going to go. But I love you guys so much because I have hit the recorded option. Like, it'll be, the replay will be up soon. If you're catching me on TikTok, if you're catching me on YouTube, just click on the link in my bio, join the free event for free. Let me know how you guys are feeling. Did today land with you? Was this a conversation that you were like, wow, I didn't even know that I needed this? I really wasn't even paying attention to any of this in my personal growth, in my manifestation journey. Like, was this something that you were like, wow, this was a breath of fresh air? And I understand now, like, having this perspective from being here today, that like where I've got some work to do and what I've got to clean up. All right, this is landing. I'm seeing a bunch of hearts. I'm seeing a bunch of fire emojis. Like, all right, I love this. I love you guys so much. I'm so proud of you for showing up. I'm so proud of you for doing the work. If you haven't done the homework for day 1 and day 2, you got to start today. Just start today. It doesn't have to be perfect, but taking messy action is better than no action. Start today. Start doing the work, start cleaning it up. If you are in the membership, I highly encourage you to look at the Holistic Wellbeing Workshop, because that's really going to be able to lock in all of the health and go deeper on like the importance of hydration and the importance of sleep and all of these things. And if you're not yet in the membership and you want to be, and this is exactly what you've been looking for, then if you can take advantage of the coupon codes. They're listed in the program. They're listed in the emails that I send. But if you use GTFU, glow the fuck up, if you use that, you will get into the membership for $33 this month. And I got a question yesterday, how much is it after that? It's $44 a month. So it's like still a fucking steal. You get access to all of my programs. You get access to a community, and you get access to monthly group coaching calls with me. So if you're not yet in there, I highly encourage you to join, because this is what you'll be learning. These are the things that we talk about. These are the conversations that we have. This is how I hold you accountable. It is literally the best thing. If you're not yet working with a mentor, like, this is the thing that you want to be in, because you've got a community, you've got someone that can hold you to keep you accountable. You get a space to ask questions, but you're not becoming codependent because you're going through all of the programs on your own. And you'll have lifetime access, yearly access to this 5-day event. So if you're loving this and you want to keep going back to it, highly encourage you to get into the membership. If not, you'll have access to this until 1/1. I love you guys so much. Thank you for being here. And I will see you tomorrow at 1 p.m. EST, 11 a.m. Did I say EST? 11 a.m. PST. Jesus. And we'll be talking about manifesting. So yes, this has all been adding up to it, but we're going to really deep dive into manifesting tomorrow. And then on the last day, day 5, we'll be talking about self-concept. So you're going to want to show up. And if you didn't make it live, just make sure that you watch these videos daily, set that declaration for yourself, and have the most amazing day. I will see you guys tomorrow. Love you. Bye.